It's a marathon.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for
Hi,
coming.
Deborah.
Appreciate everybody being here. Tonight we have Rosalie, whom everybody knows. Rosalie and her beautiful art. Don't clap yet. And Rosalie will be presenting about her art, her process, her story, anything else that she wants to talk about. So thank you.
Okay?
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for asking me long ago. I think this is a wonderful idea that we do this. So kudos to whoever thought it up, and thank you for including me. Tonight I'm going to talk about two things. The first is how painting in an abstract style, why I do it, why it resonates with me, how it relates to my story. So I'll talk a little bit about that. It's a little teeny bit out there, but it's the truth. The second thing I will talk about is my practice and how I paint and why I paint the way I do. So I'll begin with my story, such as it is. I believe, and this is all just me, these are my thoughts, my opinions, I believe we're all hardwired for connection. In my career, I followed that path. I was a social worker for more than 30 years. Yeah. So that has really been the through line for pretty much everything that I do. I've been painting for 20 years, so do the math. And after 20 years of painting, my social work background still informs my work and is woven into my painting practice in a lot of different ways. And I suspect that everybody here has that same experience, that what you did for a career or what your passion is part of the tapestry of your painting life and of your painting journey. And I feel that very strongly. So how does my background in social work show up? And I just have a few ideas about that. Occasionally I teach. I've taught here at the Art Association. And I like to teach because I think it's a lot of work. I'm not a natural born teacher, that's for sure. But I enjoy doing it for a couple of reasons, particularly teaching painting in an abstract style. And those reasons are, first of all, I think people are intimidated by painting this way. Very often in my painting career, I've gotten the question, I want to paint abstractly, I don't know how to start, I don't know where to begin, I just don't know how to get there. So a lot of my class, and some of you have been in my class, is about that. I also think that painting abstractly is a really wide path for artists who don't quite know where to go. You can't really make a mistake. You can't paint a bad still life. I mean, you can't paint a bad abstract. If it's genuine, if it's authentic, has value, and it's perfect. So I think that abstract art in many ways is very forgiving. So I like to teach it. One other thing that I do, kind of going back to my social work background, is I administer a scholarship every year through the National Association of Women Artists. Some of you may know it or be members. The one thing I'll say about it, if you ever have any interest, go on their website. It is thenawa.org, nawa.org, and the whole application process is on their site. It's a juried organization, and you have to be juried into the national organization, and then you can join the Mass chapter or any other chapter. But the reason I'm talking about it is because you get a lot of exhibit opportunities through NAWA, really all over the country. So check it out if you have interest. I've been there for about, I don't know, since 2015, I think, so 10 years. And during that time, I've served on the scholarship committee. We give out scholarship to senior women who are going on to college and majoring in fine art. And I love doing that because it's hard to pay for college these days. We focus on underserved communities. We love it when we have first generation kids going to school, and we give them, significant scholarships to help them on their way. When I was young, I didn't know I liked to paint. I had no clue. Art was not within my family's frame of reference. And I was in my 50s when I started painting. So that's why it's important to me to see kids who love to paint and want to go on to be able to do something to make that happen. So that's another way that my social work background kind of impacts my life. For a long time, I've been donating my work here and other places, and I'm sure that many of you have as well. When I look back and add up and basically quantify what I have donated,
Put my name there.
It adds up to a lot of money that I never could have given in money. But my art makes it possible for me to do that, to support organizations that are important to me, like this one. So it's another way that I feel my background is resonating through my work. Basically, the overarching theme of my painting practice is connection. It helps me tell my story. It helps me understand my story. So it's really all about connection. And I like quotes, and this is one of the few that you'll hear in this talk. This is by painter Robert Motherwell, and to me it's about connection. And he said, "What could be more interesting or, in the end, more ecstatic than in those rare moments when you see another person look at something that you have made and realize that they got it exactly, that your heart jumped into their heart with nothing in between." I just think that's so cool. We all want to be seen authentically. For me, at least, turning myself inside out and putting it on a canvas is my way of placing my authentic self, for better or worse, front and center. Making myself available for criticism, for compliments, for indifference, which I think is the worst, total indifference. And I think maybe, some of you might feel the same way. It's very, very hard to take those risks, to be in the arena, to put yourself out there. And I feel it's one way that I at least can say this is who I am. Take it or leave it. Sometimes, the faster I work without thinking, the better the result. And I'm wondering if you all have had that experience. That's when my work is the most gestural. It's less textured, it's more dynamic. That's why I pulled this out of the show in the other room, because I think this is an example of that. This is mine. I think I painted it quickly, and I was in that flow state, which I'll talk about in a minute. And this was the result, and I like it. I don't always like my work, but in this particular painting, I'm happy with. So sometimes I will experience that flow state, and you all know what that is. I have a lot of different descriptions of it. When in a flow state, an individual experiences intense focus, concentration on the present moment. Their actions and their awareness merge, so that it seems like the activity is almost performing itself. It's a sublime experience that many people spend their lives in pursuit of. I remember hearing before I ever painted, when I was a writer, I think it was Deepak Chopra who said, if you're doing something that which makes you lose track of time, that is, I know I'm not saying the quote correctly, but that was him. And that's what I think a flow state is. A couple of other definitions: it's a pathway to the unconscious. It helps overcome the distraction of prior knowledge. You basically have to let reality go, and unconscious takes over. I like this one. It's spontaneous improvisation. So, Deepak calls it a prelude to enlightenment, where time, self-consciousness, and resistance dissolve, and work becomes effortless. I believe that when that happens, I need to pay attention. I think it's a clue, it's a sign, it's a guidepost, and I believe that it's telling me how I should be spending my time. So, flow state. I love flow state. However, painting, as you all know, can be a very painful process. I often struggle. I wreck the painting. I decide that I don't like it. You okay, Bonnie?
Yeah, I just need some water because I keep coughing.
Oh,
I'm so
okay.
sorry.
No worries. I struggle. I decide that I basically suck at this and I shouldn't be doing it. Go into that painter's spiral of self-doubt and have that imposter syndrome. You all probably, or some of you, know what that is. However, if I keep at it, if I try to unconsciously, and this might sound like a contradiction, but keep the basic tenets of painting top of mind, elements of composition, all of the things we need to remember when we're painting, if I keep those top of mind and still allow my unconscious to lead the way, if I make that journey, I eventually, if I'm lucky, arrive at something that feels right, that looks right, that speaks to me, that speaks for me, that I'm happy to show. That happens to me fairly often. And painful as it is, it feels like an important process. It's a journey that I personally like to take. And it almost gives me permission, justifies my work. You know, psychiatrists would have a field day with that, I'm sure, but that's how I feel. And Philip Guston, who was a painter, also feels that way, which I think is kind of awesome. So here is a quote from him. "Where do you put a form? It will move all around, it will bellow out, and it will shrink. Sometimes it winds up exactly where it was in the first place. But at the end, it feels different. And it had to make that voyage. I am a moralist." This is Philip talking. "And I can't accept what has not been paid for, or a form that has not been lived through." So I like forms that have been lived through. And that's all I have to say. But I'm going to talk a little bit about muses. The ancient Greeks believed that creatives couldn't paint on their own. their muses had to help them with their imagination and their creativity. They needed the muses, the daughters of Zeus, to come down from above, I guess, and make that magic happen. I believe that my muse is me. It comes from the inside. I paint from the inside. So I like the concept, but I don't like the idea that it's external as opposed to internal. I spent years painting from the outside. I learned to paint representationally from a very traditional Italian painter, Enrico Donati. And he taught me a lot, and everything he taught me, I use all the time. The basics of painting, regardless of style, apply. And so I painted miles of landscapes and seascapes and a few portraits, a few commissions. Then my challenge was making it look like the reference. Maybe the light was the most interesting piece of it, getting the light right. But I felt like all the problems with representational painting were solved for me. There was nothing for me to figure out. I was told, the answers were given. I felt like I was reproducing, that I wasn't creating. Something was missing. So even though I was learning a lot, and I'm grateful for all that I learned, my painting process lacked that excitement and that discovery and enlightenment and that spark that is so cool when it happens. So I felt like I was a painter once removed. And I was always attracted to abstract art. It resonated with me. Sometimes I got excited about it if I would see a painting that I just loved. There was something there, and it took me a while to get there. I used to call it going to the dark side. And there was a transition period. My paintings were abstract-y, but they were abstracted landscapes, and eventually I got there. Now it's different. There are more of us. This group is a great example of that. There weren't as many. It's hard to be an abstract painter in New England. And when I had an art gallery for a while, and inevitably people would come in and ask for marshes or paintings of boats or seascapes. And that's what I was painting at the time, so that was fine. But we were a little bit of the underdog for a while, and I believe that's changing. I also have a personal theory on why abstract painting works for me. My painting style, specifically my obsession with working with shapes and making sure that shapes are in right relationship with one another. That's kind of a thing of mine. Doesn't really show here. That painting of mine, I don't know if that does either actually, but it has more shapes. And it's something that I spend a lot of time thinking about. I think that it stems from my personal quest to find my place in community, in family, in my social circle, basically my place on the planet. I think when I try to figure out how my shapes need to settle together, I'm trying to figure out where I need to be. That's probably why I personify my shapes. They become my people. I want them to be happy. I think I want myself to be happy. So I said it was a little bit out there, but it's the truth. So I obsess a lot over shapes. I move them around, I expand them, I connect them, I make them bigger, I make them smaller, I run them off the page, I erase them, I scrape them, I paint them over in black, I paint them over in white, I add marks. When they finally land, when they settle in, as I mentioned earlier, when they complement each other and maybe even talk to each other, reach toward each other, when they make sense to me, then I'm happy. Other people may not be, but it needs to work, and I need to trust that if I'm happy with the piece, that's okay. So how does all this shape my story, explain my story? For me at least, painting in an abstract style is taking a walk through an internal landscape that I probably would not have visited. I'm sure you don't know this, but a lot of my paintings look like bird's eye views of land. I don't have one around right now, but I think in some way they tell me where I'm going, where I am, you know, those existential questions, you know, I think they help me with those. And they represent a lot of things to me. They represent conflict and peace and calm and chaos and vulnerability and warm hearts and cold hearts and everything. They represent life, they represent my life. So that's the construct within which I work. And you can throw in all of the rules and regs, they're all important, but ultimately it's all about that inspiration that comes from within. So that's my a little bit about my story. I'll talk now about my practice. I know I only have 30 minutes.
You can go over, that's fine. You're amazing.
I shouldn't go. As I think I mentioned, a lot of people have asked me, and I'm sure all of you, how I want to paint abstractly. I don't know how. How do I start? How do I begin? So I have a lot of different ways to do that. And I'm just going to show you this one, which is a painting that I probably spent 2 or 3 hours on. Let me try and find it. And I don't have it right because at a certain orientation it looks like a woman, but I can't find it. But anyway, I don't have to just keep turning it. I start my paintings in lots of different ways, as I'm sure you do as well. My favorite, overall, hands down, is doing collage. And we have collage artists here among us, many of you. I am not one, but it helps me with composition, as you know. And a couple of times I've sold paintings based on my collage reference. So I think that's the best way to do it. When it was first presented to me, I didn't want to do it. When I presented it to a class, they didn't want to do it. But I think ultimately it worked. It was a good thing. It was a good lesson. But there are so many different ways, there are countless ways to start a painting. Start with a feeling, a song, a poem, a concept. Don't overthink or explain. Cover the canvas in lots of color and gradually layer it over so that it's there but it's disappearing, and ultimately it may be completely gone. Draw circles, squares, triangles. Just get information on the canvas. use a super long brush. Take 2 brushes together and do that. I've had classes do this. Draw your initials backwards on the canvas with your non-dominant hand. Use that as information. Sketch from life. So sketch the room and turn it upside down and use that as your information. I think it's called autonomic drawing, where you don't take the pencil off the page. Do that. Close your eyes and do that. Put a whole bunch of dots on a canvas and connect them. It really doesn't matter where you begin. What you started with will probably be gone or painted over eventually. What matters is that you get information on the canvas. And I know I'm telling you all what you already know, but I'm basically talking about how I do it. I'm a very slow painter. My paintings usually have many lives before they land right side up and settle. Currently, my painting sweet spot is 30 by 30. I am currently painting with acrylics on cradle panel. I like using boards. One of the reasons I like using boards is when I decide that I'm a terrible painter, I sand them off. I sand the paintings off. And then I use all this wonderful information and I build on this. Trish wants the painting. But talk, no.
You said it's not done.
No, I just sand
I
it.
would think of that through. We'll
Yeah.
talk.
But you wanna talk a little bit about how you do it?
Well, I've just been saying, I have all these unfinished paintings, and I've just been taking them out, and I've been sanding them. Well, I mean, that one I have in the show has some of that.
Yeah.
Writing on it, sanding, painting in, and I find it very satisfying.
Mhm.
And
And you have so much history.
yeah.
I love the history. I will say, and you probably know this, do it outside and wear a mask. I'm not sure it's a good thing to do,
Yeah.
but it's something that I often do.
No, your husband's.
My husband, you're right, true. I'm what they call, and many of us are, a non-conceptual, process-driven painter. I don't know what I'm doing when I start. I paint, I respond, I paint again. It's basically rinse and repeat. I can be, not always, an expressive and gestural painter. I personally am trying to stick to a limited palette. Lately have been staying away from reds and blues because I would always default to primary colors, and I'm trying not to do that. My favorite color right now is Payne's Gray. I love, as I mentioned, layering, working with glaze, cold wax sometimes. Often my work is very textural. And sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that simply means I don't know what the heck to do. And so I just keep layering. I try to leave space for the eye to rest. I think about that a lot. I spend a lot of time looking. Time looking at a painting is really valuable. Seems like we're not doing anything, but I feel I need to look at my work a lot. Sometimes I'll bring it out of the studio, which is currently in my basement, into my living room or dining room, so I see it a lot and can think about what I need to do next. I like it when an area is bothersome. That painting over there, right in the bottom, middle of the bottom, that shape, for lack of a better word, was bothersome, the green, the whole thing. And I didn't know what to do with it. I took a little bit of it out, and it's probably likely that I'll take more of it out. But I also like to leave things in that are bothersome, that are,
Reality.
yeah, exactly. I just couldn't, or, you know,
Make you think.
It's
Yeah.
the truth.
yeah, exactly. So, I think I've covered all. I always have to keep the elements of composition in mind, and that sounds contradictory, because I'm saying I paint from my inspiration, my muse, and from within, but I'm always thinking about value and shape and color and movement and history and texture and energy and proportion and structure and all that stuff. It's always there, and it's all important. I really like paintings that have push and pull, and I still operate as if I'm trying to paint a landscape and have it look like it's going away from you. I still do that in my abstract work, which I think is kind of interesting. Sometimes a painting I'm working on becomes figurative. Here it is. Here she is. So I see a lady here, and whenever that happens, or not whenever, but sometimes when it happens, I say, okay, I'll have a lady. I like that, I'm gonna do a lady. So I'll try to paint a lady. Well, I don't paint, it's just not who I am. It never works. Whether it's a cityscape, or a figure, or a seascape, landscape, it's a mistake. So I need to try not to do that. The other thing I have done is try to paint like other artists, because I love the way they paint and I want to paint like them. And I try, and I can never do it. It's always a bad idea for me. So I believe that I finally developed my own visual language, and you all know what visual language, I'll talk about it a teeny bit. But it's really what's recognizable about your work. What is your signature? If I look at a piece, how am I gonna know that's Trish's, or that's Deborah's, or that's Susan's? And I know that you all can look at work and know immediately who painted it, because they have their own visual language, which is recognizable. I have lots of lists, and I have a list of what constitutes the visual language. Medium substrate, your signature palette, your style, are your shapes organic or cubic or whatever? Do you typically use focal points? Is there a lot of movement? What tools do you use? On and on and on. There's a lot of elements to visual language. But I think it's important because it's my language, and it represents who I am. I believe that my visual language is conversational, which isn't an artistic term at all, but it's what I have come up with. And I think for me, the important thing is connection between compositional elements. And again, it's all about connection and communication. So the only reason, or one of the reasons I'm talking about this is I think we need to pay attention, because it's helpful to me to know my visual language, and it might be helpful for you as well. The last thing I'll talk about, and it's another list, is something that I'm asked, or we're all asked, and we all ask the question, how do I know when I'm done? How do I know when the painting is done? And I developed a checklist long ago that when I remember, I refer to because it's really helpful. I'm happy to email it to anybody who would like it. But it has questions on it like, what shapes can be simplified or eliminated? This is when you're looking at a painting and trying to decide if it's done. Are the shapes in right relationship? That's my thing. Is it balanced? Is there tension? Are there too few colors, too many colors? Does it have volume? Does it have volume through value? Does it move your eye around the canvas? Can the eye rest? Does it engage the eye? Why would I look at it? Why would I spend time looking at it? Is there a problem area? Should it be removed? Should it stay? Is there a focal point? And the only other, I think, important question is there variety? And I think if, rather than remembering all of this stuff, I think it's important to think about variety in every element of composition, so that your shapes aren't all cubic and aren't all the same size, or your tools are used a myriad of tools. Variety applies throughout the process, and I think it's important to keep that in mind. And the last question I will mention is the first question, and that is, what shapes can be simplified or eliminated? So on a piece like this, I'm going to start with that question. What shapes can be simplified or eliminated? And then I'll go to, should I run this off the canvas? Should I connect it? I don't have much value in this painting. I don't have a lot of complementary colors. It's pretty, the palette is pretty simple. Do I want to do more with that? So I've got a long way to go with this. And I'll also, I know, be using a lot of glaze, possibly cold wax as well. So those are some questions that we can ask ourselves, that I ask myself. And other than that, I wanted to mention one thing, because we're all abstract painters and we paint big a lot. And big abstract, we're in New England. Not a lot of people have houses with big white walls. So this is an okay example of this, but what I'm talking about is painting big abstracts on small canvases. It's hard to do that. A lot of you do it so well. But it's something that I try to do, is get a big abstract composition on a little space. I'm going to just mention my favorite artist, because this is an artist talk. The mother of abstract art. I love her. She was painting abstractly before Kandinsky. And there actually is a show currently at Chalk Gallery, which I have not seen. Do you know what Chalk is? It's on Harris Street.
Yes.
It's the old Peg, Paula Esty Gallery. And the artist there, in the little Instagram posts that I've seen, her work really reminds me of this.
Bonnie,
I don't know her
she's
name.
on our floor.
She's on, yes.
She's a new artist
Yeah.
on our floor.
Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, anyway, I thought that was interesting. I love her. Arthur Dove, he's all about shapes. Diebenkorn.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And then Frankenthaler. I'll say one little thing about Diebenkorn that some of you have heard. When I was studying with an art teacher, she told me, I was a new painter, relatively new. She told me my work reminded her of Diebenkorn's. I didn't know who he was. So I went home and I looked him up, and I said, oh my God. But what it did for me was help me believed that I wasn't crazy,
Yeah.
that what I was doing was out there and okay. So I took that lesson and I brought it to class, and we talked about spirit artists. Who is your spirit artist? Who resonates with you in you, and whose work resonates in your work? And I just feel that that's an important thing to think about. We have a Picasso there, remember, Darryl?
Yeah, but it's funny, I feel more influenced by clay.
Oh, well, see, I got it wrong. I picked Picasso at the time for you. But anyway, it's just a fun thing to do. So I love Stephen Korn, Helen Frankenthaler, Arthur Dove, and this month, Grace Hardigan, who is at the Portland Museum of Art. And if you can go, because it's an amazing exhibit of her work. I think there are about 40 pieces. Yeah, and she's just
Portland Museum.
Portland Museum, Portland, Maine.
Where is the place, Harrigan's in?
Portland Museum of Art, Portland,
Until
Maine.
January, right?
January, or maybe even February, check. But it's, I love that museum, and the exhibit is fabulous.
And DuPont has a show at the Gaussian in New York.
Oh, really? Stephen Korn.
Oh, God, really?
I know.
Oh,
So that's pretty much my talk. I will end with a quote, because I love quotes. And, I wanted to recommend 2 books. I mean, I know we all have a million books, but the first is Big Magic,
yes.
which Elizabeth Gilbert wrote, I think, 10 years ago. Yeah, so good. I don't have a copy of it. I can't find my copy. And the second one is Your Brain on Art.
Is that the one you?
Yeah, that's the one I recommended, yeah.
So good.
That is really good, yeah.
And I just wanted to read one line in this book. The arts literally help you live longer. And the rest of the book is supporting that premise. So I would recommend that book. And I'll end with my favorite quote that is by Elizabeth Gilbert as well. And maybe some of you have heard it. And it goes like this. Creativity is sacred, and it's not sacred. We toil alone, and we are accompanied by spirits. We are terrified, and we are brave. Art is a crushing chore and a wonderful privilege. Only when we are at our most playful can divinity, inspiration, our muse, only then will they get serious with us. So make space for all these paradoxes, calm down, get back to work. Thank you.
We have time for a few questions?
Sure. Yeah, it's up to you.
Did you
Tell me.
study painting with,
Anybody?
Yeah.
No, I'm not trained. No, I didn't study it in school or in college.
you just kind of moved from social work into,
I was a retired social work, became a realtor in Newburyport, walked by Enrico Donati's gallery and said, oh, could I possibly, oh my God, could I? And started taking lessons with him. Ultimately, I bought the gallery. Did not have any business doing that, but I did. And ran it for a while, learned a lot. So that's how I started painting.
I have another question about abstract art is only usually done with acrylics, not oils. I mean, it seems like people don't do oils.
Grant Hardigan's, I think work was all oil, but
Okay.
I don't know. I do. Yeah, I use a golden acrylic, and I'm planning to use open golden acrylic more because it's has a little more tooth to it, it's more creamy. I use a lot of medium to make it less plastic and more, to behave more like oil.
What is that damn bell?
I don't have a question, but I'm blown away by the palette tonight. I don't know if the people are, the paintings
Like
behind,
green,
everything's blending.
Yeah.
I just really appreciate your, you know, sharing your vulnerability.
Oh, that's what
You
it's
know,
all
and
about,
then
yeah.
I'm sorry that we haven't had more conversations when we were next door
We
neighbors.
were neighbors.
You have to come over and we'll talk, but, thank you, it was wonderful.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much. That was great, Rosalie. Hope you can join us for the rest of the
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Good.